Koku Avle. I work at City FM. I am the host of the City Breakfast Show. This program is live on City FM, and it will also be live on City FM's Facebook page. We are privileged to have the former president here with us. Your Excellency, thank you so much.
Thank you. Welcome.
For welcoming us to your house. I would start by introducing Dr. Pascal Brenya, who's the coordinator of the Kufuor Scholars Program, to give our viewers and listeners a quick context and background to this interaction before we begin firing our questions. So please welcome Dr. Pascal Brenya to talk to us. Pascal.
See, we have special greetings, and it goes like this: the sharpest mind. The sharpest mind. These young people are sharp as these are scholars. And these are your own scholars. It has taken us quite a long waiting time for us to have this opportunity. As part of their grooming, we normally sit under the feet of to groom them, and we have had the opportunity to come under your feet for us to learn together. These are young people with your initiative and vision you asked to put together. The starting Kufuor scholars, 14 in numbers, various universities, speak different languages. Anywhere we travel across this country, there will be one or two who speak the local language. A moment when the sharpest mind need advice, the finest advice, we cannot look anywhere else. By 8 years of our leadership, these young ones have submitted themselves to come and learn and interact with you and ask you some of the questions that it has been bothering them, some of the questions that they have been waiting to have the opportunity on one-on-one to do it. And this is the moment that we have come. So our mission to your house is to pay you a visit and wish you well, and more especially, put our questions to you and listen to you as you advise us to become one of the finest leaders this country of. Once again, we thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pascal Brenya. Thank you very much. So, Your Excellency, before we ask our questions, since you have welcomed us to your house, maybe you may want to let us know how happy you are that we are here. If not, we can go straight ahead because we have lots of questions for you.
I can sense that. Since we've got a collection of the sharpest minds from around the country and across university campuses all over. But first, I want to state how very happy I am to have all of you call on me today. After all, the group bears my name, Kufuor Scholars. I'm flattered, and I feel a special responsibility towards the group too. So naturally, I want them to feel at home with me, and I accept fully the responsibility to influence their nurturing, because that's what it is. So at the end of the day, they would go through their studies and also mentoring, and time they finish and spread out across our country and beyond, and in various sectors of endeavor, everywhere they go, I would feel confident that really each and every member bears at least some imprimatur from me. So I welcome you, and I'm ready to interact with you. They are sharpest minds. They say finest advice, but it's not just advice. This exercise should be interactive.
Exactly.
Even old minds like me might learn something from them. So welcome and feel at home.
Thank you very much. We want to announce again we are live on 97.3 CTFM in Accra and on our partner stations, and we're also live on CTM's Facebook page by video. It's a day after the United States election, and it's 20 days to Ghana's election. A lot of people are thinking about it. So maybe as a way of to take the liberty as the greater for quick questions. To what extent were you following the United States election? And as a president of Ghana, how is the relationship with the US defined for you? So if you had been president when this election was going on, how would it have been knowing that the United States is going through an election? So give us an insight into how well you followed what happened last night and how you received the news that Mr. Trump is now president of America.
The globe is so interconnected now, and the reality is that America is in the very forefront of international relations. It is big, it is powerful in every aspect. And since no nation is an island, and Ghana is part of the international community, naturally whatever is happening in the United States somehow impacts on our fortunes. So naturally, I've taken interest in what has been going on in that country toward their selecting this new team of leadership to govern the country and also to interact with the rest of the world. Ghana and the United States have enjoyed very good relations from way back, from point of independence. And we've related very well. The fact that there's a large group of African Americans there in the United States, and then when you know a bit of history, you know that ancestrally, many of the African Americans made their way from our coast here to America. Also the fact that when the president who is outgoing now, President Obama, when he made it first African American to have succeeded as president of the United States, when he made it, Ghana was the first stop he made on the continent of Africa. I was there, I was part of the reception line, if I may put it that way. All these combined to focus my attention on what transpired there, the changing of the baton of leadership. Last night, I'll tell you, I didn't sleep. I was following very closely because just, I think, the week or so before the elections, so many events happened, dramatic events occurred there, which made all concerned, I believe, sit on tenterhooks. So what was going to be the outcome? And the pundits were saying it was very tight race, it could be anybody's. Then eventually it happened. Already the commentators are saying America so developed institutionally with strong traditions that perhaps changes might not be dramatic in terms of policy. We are yet to see. But if we are going by the perceptions of the personalities, the two personalities that contested the final race, going by their pronouncements and social images, I would say we all would need to sit and wait and watch a bit to see what to be the true coloration of new president.
Okay. Just a quick final question on the U.S. and then we'll move on. 8 years ago, you welcomed President Bush here. He did a lot with Ghana, particularly in 3 ways: health, education, and then the FCA. You managed to get him to put more money into Ghana than any other president before him. As a president of Ghana, what is key in relating with a superpower like the US, and how do we get them to partner us better and do more for us because they are ahead of us in development? What was key to how you managed to get President Bush to be so interested in Ghana as to when he was even leaving, he said to reporters that this was one of his most fulfilling trips as president? What was the key to getting that out of the US president?
In spite of its very advanced developments, the United States is made up of humans, individuals, and there's always some chemistry to human relations. When the opportunity came for me to meet with President Bush as a man, somehow, from the first meeting, we struck it off so well, and that was in Dakar. I think it was during his first visit as president to Africa. He was coming to visit ECOWAS, and the meeting took place in Dakar. That time, the president or chair of ECOWAS was President Wade of Senegal. So all of us presidents of West Africa converged there. Strangely, however, when we got to Dakar, presidents of ECOWAS decided to invite me to accept the chair of ECOWAS. Okay. And so when Mr. Bush landed and ECOWAS met him, I became more the instant spokesperson of ECOWAS. And at that time, Liberia was in the throes of conflict and a lot of violence. America, which had, I believe, some force stationed around Liberia, was deciding to pull out of Liberia. So it fell on me to make an appeal to Bush not to do that, because we felt America had a singular responsibility towards Liberia, if you know a bit of history. Yeah. And that seemed to have impressed Mr. Bush so much. In fact, he changed policy of pulling out. He changed for America to continue to stay. And from then on, some sort of positive relationship ensued between me and him. Along the way, through various interactions, but United Nations, and somehow the friendship grew. At the 9/11 incidents in America, I believe soon after I had attended the General Assembly of the United Nations, and a number of us presidents who went to commiserate the United States, and he was president then. Again, he took notice, and that strengthened the relationship even further. Then, eventually, he fashioned the policy of Millennium Challenge Corporation to encourage African countries to use good governance in pursuit of development of their various countries. Ghana, during my tenure, came to be adjudged that time, I believe, like the one country that showed such good governance. And it was on basis of good governance that the offer of $547 million United States grant, MBA grant, was given. But for America to give you that, you as a recipient nation would have to indicate want to use money, even though America had judged it for good governance. And our government decided that we would use the grants to pursue modernization, commercialization of our. Since that which engaged the most of our people, after many negotiations and conclusions, the compact was signed, and in fact, it worked through about 30 districts of Ghana to help farmers, small, medium-scale farmers, to pursue modernize and commercialize agriculture. And then we also laid a lot of infrastructure. You see the John Bush Highway, which was Bush to help our farm produce from central region to get to port as quickly as possible. Well, given the fact that the amount of money, $547 million, was the single biggest grant Ghana ever had, and for the good purposes the money was put to, including the infrastructure of roads and electricity and so forth and so on. Government decided that this, perhaps the biggest road in Accra, should be named after him. Naturally, he's a human being. That you must have hit him very well, positively. So we came on first name basis, and it has remained till now. And not only that, the same time we signed the Millennium Development Accounts, Ghana, which had been blacklisted by the Exim Bank of the United States, was restored on positive lists, and again was offered over $300 million for rural electrification, which is ongoing now all over the country. So he did so many good things for us, but I would say that the relationship started on that chemistry I spoke about. And not only that, my government was careful always to govern by the constitution of the country, respecting the rule of law, showing due regard for human rights, using democracy and that sort of thing, which impressed many of the nations, international countries we related with, and especially with George Bush's America. We did very well. But even after that, even after our tenure, this relationship has been growing. And just earlier this year, I believe Ghana has concluded a second compact with the United States, which is also bringing a further $500 million to continue with expansion.
Wow. So thank you very much. We now turn to some of our scholars. And just to remind you, the TFM event scholars have hosted here in President.
Thank you. Thank you very much. My name is Esther Imonela Spio, a level 300 student at the University of Ghana, Accra City campus. And I'm speaking on behalf of my scholars. We would know, Mr. President, when you were in office, from you, really wanted to do, but then you didn't get the opportunity to. We want to take over the baton from you. So if you can advise us, and as part of that, the First Lady President. So we really need this advice. If you can tell us what you really wanted to do, but couldn't get the opportunity. Thank you.
term of 4 years, or even for that matter 2 years as our constitution allows. I assure of this, perhaps people forget when the economy was down. But to put it bluntly, the economy was virtually insolvent. This was why Ghana to be highly indebted country initiative, and which meant to submit our fiscal and to discipline with very professional. People say we went to the IMF. That's the role for IMF, to help countries manage their economies at macro level very efficiently, because that really becomes the infrastructure for the microeconomy, where, as the saying goes, the private sector is allowed to become the engine of growth. It's the private sector investors who generate the jobs and also create the wealth. But if you don't get the macroeconomy right, hardly do you manage to give the private sector the space to grow the economy and give employment. So quickly, my government tackled that with the going into the initiative, HIPIC initiative. And thankfully, within the first 2-3 years, Ghana came out successfully. We were judged by IMF and everybody as having done it expertly. We had good team to manage it. But with that, we also did very well. The mainstay of Ghana's economy down history has been. By 2001, the farmers felt so aggrieved, they had begun cutting down their trees to go into citrus and other things. My government didn't like that. So what did we do? We changed policy to give the farmers more of the international market price, with government taking less. Till then, government took the lion's share of the price and gave the farmer about 30 or so percent. With us, that change came, gave the farmer over 60%. Changed the fortunes of cocoa. 2001 cocoa was just about 350,000 tons for that year. With the change in pricing, and also with government going out to spray free of charge in pesticides, within 3 years, cocoa produce had jumped from 350,000 to 700,000 tons. So government was able to predict by year 2006 that by 2010, Ghana will hit over 1 million tons of crop, and it happened. So we're doing all this, but our main aim was to make a in the profile of the economy, because so that our coming in, the image or the reality was that we were raw material producers for exports. So we said we should add value, we should industrialize meaningfully. And so what we do, we have to look at power generation, because we need power to add value, access to credit. So we licensed many banks. 2001, the number of banks in the country didn't check. By the time we were leaving, the banks were about 30. And so competition has changed with the bank chasing creditors, small traders, farmers, artisans. They were being chased to go for credit, which helps a lot. And then the GDP was growing every year by leaps and bounds. So even though 2001 had seen a GDP growth of about 3 or point something percent, time we were leaving office 2008, the GDP growth was over 8%. That time, 2007, 2008, the whole world had suffered a slump. And for a country to have grown was virtually like unheard of. Because we created an enabling atmosphere for the private sector, investors came on all fronts, especially on the petroleum and gas ones. And that was how Ghana hit oil, especially at 2006-2007. And that really put us, the nation, in the brackets of very economically viable nations. We became so creditworthy, and the image did us a lot of good. But we wanted to go in further in terms of adding value. Perhaps you know of Kaiser and Vaco. Vaco is the aluminum ingots for exports. Our President Nkrumah, Dr. Nkrumah, had agreed with Kaiser, which was then the leading smeltering aluminum company in the world, to come and do a smelter here. That's Vaco, on the understanding that Vaco would have access to the Aksombo energy at a very cheap rates. Vaco had promised that it would mine our bauxite deposits, which are quite massive. Chebi, Nyehimi, Awaso, the country. We have bauxite deposits, but they are not being mined for processing here. Awaso
It's been broadcast. Yeah.
Kaiser decided to sell out in the economic difficulties the U.S. fell into. Kaiser approached our government to sell off Vaco. Vaco was very viable. They came, the vice president in Ghana here, talked to us and said that they wanted to leave or sell off branch of their company, and they just wanted to know if Ghana would be interested. And naturally, we said Ghana was interested because we knew the Kaiser had benefited so much. 36 years presence here, bringing alumina all the way from Jamaica to smelt here,
Wow.
and then to take the product out without Ghana having a stake, not even 1%.
Wow.
So when they came to tell us, it was like such a big windfall we hadn't dreamt about. We said, yes, we would be interested. So they said, how much? And we told them, since you've benefited for so long, for so much, and the time has come for you to go, you will leave it to us. You can even give it to us as a gift. So we could, but we haggled them. Eventually, we had to take the smelter with all the other properties in Germany for only $20 million.
Oh.
That's all we paid for. 100% equity holding of that. The idea of our government taking it off was that we would use to negotiate for partners that will help us mine our own bauxite and then do a refinery here. So we produce the alumina here, then to use in our smelter. So we said that we did the studies. We had got an offer from a partner from Brazil. We did the studies, including the laying of the rail link between Ma and the first deposit we would expect. So it came up to about $1 billion.
Wow.
Unfortunately, time was running out. Been partners, and there was MOU. Just didn't get the time to implement.
You know.
Struck the oil 2006, 2007. The companies that came in said they would need about 4 years or so to pump, meaning the pumping would be about 2010, 2011. We forced them to bring the pumping as forward as possible, but technically it wasn't possible before 2010. So that too the pumping didn't happen in our time, even though we found the oil and the gas deposits. We had also gotten Nigeria to agree with us to do the gas pipeline all the way from Nigeria to Ghana. We commissioned gas pipeline, Tema and beyond. But again, putting the gas to the industrial use didn't happen in our time because of other difficulties. That was another thing. Then, in terms of accessing credit, which is a major handicap to industry and commerce, that time, no Ghanaian bank by itself could lend even $1 million, but we needed a lot of money. So it occurred to us to talk with Barclays International to agree for us to do an offshore bank, like happens in Mauritius. And we concluded that we set up offices at the airport city. So everything was, we passed all the laws and were ready to go into serious business relations internationally. If that project had been allowed to continue, I tell you by now, much of the monies from Europe and elsewhere might be lost. And so all this has been laid, but because of left, so of the up to Ghanaians. So by the time you become president, in case you're able to fulfill your ambitions, you'd see that we still have got a lot of underpinnings for you to manage efficiently for the country.
Kwame.
Okay. But to me, education should enable the educated person to see more clearly and better of himself and around him and his relationships with his neighbors, his country, and with the international community. I said earlier that no nation was an island. I tell you the impacts of international relations doesn't tend to be appreciated, even within government circles. So a lot of times you may get some policies or pronouncements being launched which have not taken the external impacts into account. So education should make us see our world and understand it better. That we get literate and also master numeracy and that sort of thing. Good for basis, but I tell you, if it's not helping us to think clearly, it doesn't help to get analytical, then I say perhaps it's not enough education. As to whether our current system is adequate or not, I wouldn't rush to judge, because the system has produced some very good materials, human resource. Wherever you go internationally, international conferences, you meet a Ghanaian who has had all his education here before going out, and he's performing, he's as good as anybody from anywhere else. Meaning, perhaps the fault may not be in system so much as in the opportunities we do not give ourselves in the country. Really come to grips with the challenges we face. So, yes, we need always to keep on reviewing the educational systems because of technological improvements and advancements. Right now, as I sit here, I tend to envy you youngsters because of your IT competence. IT wasn't in my time. But even with that, I would say that I do not feel too handicapped because the training I had, even with the old system, I believe enables me to see through some of the challenges quite easily. So don't let us throw out what we have. Only let's keep on reviewing it in light of the technological advancements coming, and also with the opening up of the world. We must understand the world better.
My name is Zaman Mohammed from the University of Cape Coast.
Yeah.
I am a leader on a leader or a president
Mhm.
of Ghana, and I'm asked which leader has affected your perspective and approach to leadership. Because we're talking him twice, I'll say president from now. I want to throw it to you. Which leader in the world has affected your approach and perspective to being the life of leadership?
I'm not able to give you just one name. I'm a product of of a nation and also of international institutions and relations. And at every stage you meet I would say that leadership is so critical in everything we do, to appreciate the role of leadership in development or evolution. If you want to limit me to politics, I would say that there have been some leaders who have managed to turn an otherwise bleak situation into very positive gains for their nations. Everybody talks of Lee Kuan Yew of Singapore. I happen to have met him twice or so, personally, directly. And I tell you, this was a person who found himself leading a very tiny country without any natural resources except for the geographical position the country was in. But because of that sharp observatory competence, he was able to quickly adopt policies to maximize the benefits from the deployment and exploitation of that little advantage there was to his country, which had nothing. Even drinking water had to be imported. But this guy saw that the country sat on the sea lanes between east and west, and that ships coming from west to east had to stop for chandling. Those from east to west, same. So what did he do? Even though he didn't produce oil, he set up building the equivalent to busts, tank farms to service the ships that would stop by. And then along with that, he also adopted very sound educational policies and disciplines. He managed to get his people to share in his vision that if they would govern themselves with that discipline and also know their limitations over which they had to overcome to make the most commercial from the people they had to interact with internationally, they would be all right. And really, with this, and also, again, industrialization of sorts. As we speak, Singapore, which became independent after us, is now ranked amongst some of the most developed countries in the whole world. The per capita income of that country is, I'm sure, well over $30,000 compared with $1,300 here in Ghana. So that's exceptional leadership. But I would also say same of, say, the former president of France, de Gaulle. After the war, France had been shattered, and every year they changed government about twice or three times, sometimes fighting in parliament, throwing of chairs and so forth. That man coaxed the country into accepting a new constitution, 1958, by which he introduced the fixed-term presidency. And with him as president, of course, the tenure of presidency was a bit, I think, it was either 10 years or 7 years, renewable. With that, he stabilized that country and restored the economy and governance of the country to such a degree that the people regained their self-confidence and pride. And that is what has stabilized France till now. In our neighborhood, I would tell you of Côte d'Ivoire. Ghana used to be the #1 producer of cocoa in the whole world, I think into the 1960s. That man, of course, Ghana and Côte d'Ivoire are about the same people, the same vegetation, same climate. The man looked at the whole situation and he decided to adopt a farming method of plantation farming plus small and medium-scale farms in cocoa. And before we knew, Côte d'Ivoire had overtaken Ghana, and it held the first position till last we speak. But it wasn't just cocoa. He also diversified agriculture from cocoa to coffee to horticulture, pineapple, banana, everything. They've lately added cashew. Now I understand Côte d'Ivoire is #1 in cashew production, again in the whole world. And he laid the infrastructure, feeder roads and so forth, everywhere. And that, to me, showed remarkable leadership. Some of these people have been criticized as not being democratic. And I agree to some extent, because with me, it should be a balance. Respect the people, call them their rights. I believe sovereignty is with people. But at the same time, if you respect the people and help them share the vision of the potentials available to them, you may get them to grow economically at the same time as their democratic rights are also respected. I do not think you trade off the people's rights for economic rights. And so in my government, we try to pursue the two things. And to some extent, we achieved. We did the 8 years without trampling on people's rights. But within the 8 years too, the economy grew the fastest in Ghana's history since independence. So this is my inspiration for leadership politically.
This is still our live interaction. Former President Agyekum Kufuor, we are coming from his house. Right now, you're listening on the face. Firing your questions to His Excellency, who is enjoying the interaction. We are live on Facebook. We are also live on CTFM. Clara will ask the next question. So Clara, just take a mic and do that.
Thank you very much. Your Excellency, my name is Clara Bulenchi, level 300 student of the University of Cape Coast, offering my medical science.
Oh.
My question is in relation to my first scholar, Esther's question, or her aspiration. I want to know your opinion about women becoming a president of Ghana, and do you believe Ghana is ready for a female president? Thank you.
Yes, I believe in the human individual, regardless of sex. I believe in our common humanity. Our talents in terms of the brain power, I believe, are not distinguished by sex or gender. I happen to be one of 10 children by my mother. 5 of us were women, 5 men. And I tell you, some of the women virtually outshone the boys. So when you have sisters who are so bright, and you grow up with them and you know their capabilities, you'd be a very strange character to go out to say that you are the better of them just because you are male, they are female. So I believe in individual competence. And the examples of female leaders we've had around the world are showing that the women are capable of being as well as the men. Everybody talks of Margaret Thatcher, Angela Merkel of Germany, whom I've met a few times. I tell you, she's a scientist like you too. As a physicist and brilliant, even though she's still quite feminine. And then there are others who are coming around. So, of course, I know that culturally, many of our communities, we didn't give our women folk the opportunity to pursue studies too far. And so, in that sense, we seem our ladies have been handicapped. But these days, you go into our universities, go to the campuses. In terms of professions, if it's the law or medicine or engineering, in every respect, you get the women competing exceptionally well. I went for a graduation ceremony at Tech, and to my surprise then, I saw some cutish girl, and I think it was electrical engineering also. There were some hefty-looking young men with beards and all. And then when the list came to be called, it was that tiny girl that had topped the list. I couldn't believe my eyes. So I think the time has come for our ladies to stand up and get counted. Of course, there should be nothing automatic about anybody coming president because you are a man or you're a woman. No. If it's your field, you must feel the calling for it. If it's your field, pursue it, and you may make it. You may make it. So.
Okay. His Excellency, good afternoon. My name is Yao Anakwa, level 300, University of Energy and Natural Resources, Sunyani. The last time we met at Kumasi, there were two words you said, and you said mirror me, and you said we should mirror you.
Mirror.
Yeah. And those words had a profound effect on me. And I wanted to mirror a particular aspect of you, but I need to ask you so that I could get a full reflection. Should I mirror that area? I want to know that what are the traits of a good leader you should look up to promote good governance? Thank you.
Do I follow now? Well, a leader, by definition, should be the person his followers look up to follow pursuit of some purpose. Your people will not look up to you if you are not sincere. They do not perceive you as a sincere person to the common cause. So you must be sincere with your people. You must know them. You must know the challenges and problems that put them together to accept you to lead them. So be sincere to the people, be sincere to the cause, which unites you with your people. And then, because you are the pace setter and the guide, you must always stay abreast or on top of the difficulties. And then you must also have the focus and commitment to enable you pursue policies, adopt the policies, and seek to implement them so you realize the vision and ambition of the community to the benefit of all. You mustn't be divisive. You must be the type to hold the following force together. You shouldn't go in splitting. So when you are talking of a national leader, such a leader should symbolize the inclusiveness of all the people, regardless of gender, tribe, religion. It should be the people's welfare above all. Hold them together and sustain vision and commitment towards the vision of uplifting themselves overcome difficulties and challenges. I believe this is what I would want to say of leadership now. Of course, doing all this would mean you assert sincerity. It implies accountability and transparency to a large extent. And you must also have discretion.
My name is Alidwe Alhaji Elvis, University for Development Studies, Tamale Campus. I read Nurse Anesthesia BSc. I can reflect back just a few years back, implemented health insurance, youth employment, metro mass transit, school feeding program. These are programs that never existed. So in my personal conclusion, your team was a bit competent to be able to implement all this. How did you balance appointing a competent team and that of political marshals or foot soldiers into government? Yes, please.
Again, I believe it's a mark of leadership on whom to fall to bring into the management team in pursuit of the objectives of your group. The party I led was, and I believe still is, full of very able people. But in my time, 2001, I saw quickly that we had to overcome the economic challenges to make headway of any sort in terms of social interventions, general governance, and so on and so on. And even where I found that I needed hands from outside our immediate team, I dared to go out to bring some of them in. One of these days, one of the contestants for presidency, who perhaps wouldn't ever have chance, would have had to go to Parliament. But I sensed that that guy might have some assets. So I invited him. He wasn't my party person, and he wasn't the only person. We brought other people from across the political divide, because it's our country. And if there's good governance, whether people voted for you or not, they will benefit. If there's bad governance, whether you objected to the governance of the day or not, you will still suffer the badness of governance. So I was careful. Of course, I always wanted to believe that the people I would bring close into the fold of leadership would share the vision and would stay true to the pursuit of cause. But wherever it was possible to bring somebody from outside to enrich our efforts, I brought them in, always making sure, though, that they wouldn't try to run away with our show. So through that, we were able to put together a very competent team. That was the immediate political front. But in the public sector generally, when you look at the central bank, for instance, without a very competent central bank, sort of working hand in hand with the government, the political leadership, I tell you, you may not get the ship of state on an even economic keel. So we were careful with the composition of the central bank leadership. We also brought in some Ghanaians who were not directly in politics to help advise and give guidance to the overall governance led by our government. But as I say, it's mark of leadership to know whom to bring in, to add to your strengths, guide you. You shouldn't be frivolous at all with putting together a team. And when things are not going to right too, you should have the nerve to say, no, this way is not the way we should go. Even though you may love the person, if he's not pulling the weight properly, find a way to ease them off.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah.
My name is Miss Celestina Lareva Anapo, a student of Tema Campus. And my question is, I just want to relate it. If one day we wake up and we have a president whose parliamentarians are from the majority of the parliamentarians are from the other party, what will be your take on a president
who is having to work with a minority in the House of Parliament? What do you do? There's some British politician wrote a book titled "Politics is the Art of the Possible." When you find yourself in such a tight corner, think quickly. And since we should expect that all of us are nationals and we want to live in a progressing nation, you negotiate. You negotiate with that house for your bills to be passed. Just because you may have a minority in the house doesn't mean you should throw up your hands today. No. In fact, left some of us, perhaps there will be strictest separation of powers. That the executive would be one side, legislature the other side, but then work must go on between the cooperation between executive and legislature to get the laws done. So to do this, we call for masterful negotiation, negotiating skills between the executive and the legislature to get the work done.
Thank you, sir. Achumo Usisapo is my name, a third-year student of University of Ghana. Based on the previous questions asked by my fellow scholars, you've shed light on some leadership skills. But I'd particularly like to know, what was your recipe for actually becoming a standout team? Your recipe for being a standout
Recipe? You make me feel like a cook. Well, I don't know. I had a very long apprenticeship. And so time I got the opportunity right at the top. I believe I knew the field. There's the political end to government, but immediately under the political top, you have the public services, especially the civil service. And unless the political class knows the dynamics of the public sector, I tell you, government may not function well. Fortunately, as I said, I had a long apprenticeship, and right at the start of which I got exposed to the way the public sector worked. For instance, Kumasi, I happened to be the town clerk or city manager of Kumasi for about 3 years. And it's a civil service or public service work. So managing the administration of the second city of Ghana in those days helped me to see how to, with me as administrator, how to get the inputs of the treasury, the engineering department, the medical and health offices, the public transport system. They all came together under me for 3 years. And before I got elected to Parliament to become legislator. But that time it was a prime ministerial system. So the prime minister sat in Parliament with the rest of us. That's it, under Professor Buzia. So there too, I became deputy foreign minister. And so I got exposed to the inner workings of the political top, and also as a member of the legislature, and then with the exposure in the foreign office, where every time you went for conferences at the OAU, United Nations, non-aligned movements, and as early as that. And then after that, when Buzia was overthrown by soldiers and all the politicians were picked and thrown into detention, I got thrown into Fort 2. I stayed there for 15 months that gave me an aspect of the work ahead of us. And I was quite studious. And so I got prepared heavily if you can imagine, from those days, after Buzia was overthrown in 1972, we waited till the year 2000, almost 30 years, before the chance came to me. But all along, I was also functioning within the party. Our party, first PD, then PFP, and then a long drawn-out thing in the wilderness, which also enabled me to get involved in private sector activities, business. So the ban was lifted in 92 for us to go back to constitutional rule. I felt like a well-boiled egg. And so I got the chance to become president. I understood the relationship the government needed to have the private sector with the public services, as I said, civil service in particular, the relationship with the finance sector. All these things came together. These days, perhaps you wouldn't have to wait for as long as I had to wait. But thankfully, we are in the IT world, and anybody who wants to go very high in the sector I went to, I believe you would have to apply yourself, get to know as much as possible of everything through reading and using the applications. You could hop, step, and jump. But with us, we did it the nitty-gritty way.
Okay, we will take our last question for our on-air audience, and then we'll go off City FM, but we'll have time for Facebook for an extra question. So we have 2 more questions. So our lady will ask a question, which answer will be on City FM, and then we'll go off air at 5:30, and we'll take an extra question for our Facebook audience. So madam, please come for the mic and ask your question, and then we'll take one final question.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Please, my question. I'm Angela Adebud, a third-year student of Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, studying integrated art and industry. Graduate unemployment has become a major problem in the country over the years, and I want to get your personal advice. I want to know your personal advice to upcoming youth. What is your advice to them concerning this issue?
Yeah. Yes. We've come to the times when people perhaps think when you finish school, there should be a job for you to be employed at. I think we need to perhaps change our minds. We must begin to become venturesome. You know, you are finished, you are a graduate, in a way specialist, but if you are not getting employment opportunities, don't sort of sit and put your hands here, like we say in traditional parlance. You find a way to keep afloat, to bide your time when the employment perhaps you want would come along. And this would mean a sense of enterprise. You must acquire a sense of entrepreneurship or enterprise. Don't think of the big scale. Whatever little things you can do to keep yourself in decency, because if you are not doing something, sooner or later, you begin to degenerate. You might begin to compromise unduly and then lose your dignity. So even as we know, the office employment is getting scarcer and scarcer. The factories perhaps are not functioning. there's still demand around. So ask, what can you do to bide the time when the office you believe you are qualified for will be around to employ you? Apparently, when you go to India, you get people with doctorate degrees, sometimes even driving around as taxi drivers. Taxi drivers in India, graduates. They do all sorts of things to keep themselves out of indignities. They earn something, not big, but at least they manage hand to mouth. So sometimes they have a break. So do that. But overall, I would say that the real challenge to us now, as a nation, is how we put ourselves in ways to be attractive as a nation to investors. I believe the whole world has become one market. The money is floating around. It goes where it believes it will be profitable and would have security. When it comes in here, it should feel that it's safe. There wouldn't be any dramatic changes. So today is here, tomorrow somebody declares coup d'etat, and then before you know, there's confiscation of assets and things like that. The money wouldn't come. Or every time the tax regime is changed arbitrarily. No. The investor comes in for profits. We want conscionable profits. Well, nobody is talking of laissez-faire. The other day I heard somebody say some party practices laissez-faire. It doesn't happen anywhere now. What we want to do is to encourage a market play that shows a conscience in the sense that prices are monitored, so there's reasonable, fair profit making, but the market is a place where there's demand and supply. You may put gold there, people are not interested to take the gold. It would have a worth. But there's a lot of demand because there are a lot of needs here. So it's for the intelligent people to scout around and see what niche they can put themselves in to either trade or render some service that the people would need, and to earn their keep till such time you would get an opportunity to sit behind some big desk or whatever. But India provides a very good example of where highly educated graduates do all sorts of respectable engagements to keep themselves afloat till the dream jobs come around. So this is what I advise.
We'll take our final question, Madam.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. My name is Judith Boateng, third-year student at Webster University, Ghana campus. My question is, what is your take on the long tenure of office of most African leaders? And if you can share more light on how it affects the development of Africa. Thank you.
Thank you. When you say long tenure, if the tenure is prescribed by the national constitution, then I say, why not? But the trouble is where people usurp power outside the constitution. That to me is not tenure. It's hijacking. So, long tenure, like I said,